Hello everybody, Hellcarx here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 399. Getting close to 400. One more. Alright, today we're going to be talking about the Sirocco. Yes, it's a 95-ton quad mech. It's the successor to the Goliath. So, Goliath does find its way into some games, and I've seen the Sirocco on the table before. I always thought it was like, hey, who put the Star Wars walker on the table? And then you realize, oh, that's a Battlemech. Yeah, it's like how I always looked at it. Like, yeah, that's a Star Wars model. It kind of looks like one, but it's kind of interesting. All right, so the Sirocco, 95 tons. It's a 350. It has 13 double heat sinks. Comes in at 2,154 battle value. It has 19.5 tons of slab armor on board for 309 points of protection, which is not bad. And then we have a plethora of weapons. Well, actually, the armor is maxed out, so hey, what's not to love about that? Now, weapons-wise, this thing has a bunch. Now, we have a let's just see how we can read this thing. We got an ER medium laser in the front leg. Then we have an anti-personnel pod in the front leg. And then we have an ER medium leg in the right leg and an personnel pod in the right leg. So in the front legs, you have a ER medium laser in both of the legs and an anti-personnel pod. Personally, I probably would have, instead of anti-personnel pod, just went with a flamer instead, but you know, it's just me. And then in the right torso, we have an ER medium laser, and then we have an ER medium laser in the right torso facing towards the rear, in case somebody decides to come up back behind it. Then we have an AC-10 Ultra Cannon in the right torso with 2 tons of ammunition in the right leg, rear. And then we have an ER medium laser on the left torso facing forward, and we have another ER medium laser facing to the rear. So you got 2 ER medium lasers facing towards the rear. And then we have an AC-10 Ultra on the left torso with 2 tons of ammunition in the left rear leg. All right, no case. So if you do hit the ammo in the right or left rear leg, boom, you know, you're going to watch something blow off. Probably a torso too, as it cascades through. And then we have in the head, we got an ER, or not an ER, but a pulse laser. And then we have Guardian ECM in the center torso. So, what's to think about this thing? Well, we have lots of weapons on board. It's kind of like a slow-moving, it's like, when I see this, I always think of the walkers in Star Wars, going slowly moving forward as they're marching towards the trench line. That's the feeling I get when I look at one of these things, and it has a plethora of weapons up close and personal. So stuff that goes out to 12 and then 18, you know, just banging away with the cannons. Did I say 18? I don't think so. Yeah, it's like, change that, scratch. But, it's one of those things where you just kind of think about it, go, yeah. The biggest drawback of this thing is the heat. You know, you're going to have people that are going to look at that and say, I'm going to fire everything I have. I wouldn't do that if I was you, because you think about the amount of heat this thing produces. You got 6 ER medium lasers, being that they're firing some to the front, fire to the rear. That's 30 heat right there. And then you have a pulse laser, that's 34. And then you got 2 ultra cannons, which you can double pump for another 16. Yeah. Not good. It'd be 50, and you can dissipate 26. And if you ran, oof, yeah, you just went way up on the heat scale. You're just like cooking, and you're probably going to have to worry about shutting down and ammo explosions. No, you don't want to do that. It's basically one of those weapon systems where when you are out to 18, you're going to be banging away with the auto cannons. Yeah, you can double pump those things as you're closing. And then hopefully you're going to get 10 turns of that as you're closing off out of both cannons. So by the time you get to range 12, then you're going to be thinking about, okay, I'm going to toss in a couple ER medium lasers, because right there, 2 ER medium lasers, and you're walking. If you're walking, you're going up 1. If you're double pumping your autocannons. So do you want to cook yourself? No, probably not, because you're going to have 3 other systems that if you're facing towards the front, you're going to have 2 ER medium lasers and a pulse laser. Now, if you get within 6, now the pulse laser, it's something that they threw in there as an afterthought, because, well, to begin with, there is zero extra crit space left on board. So when they filled all the weapons on board this thing, they're like, ooh, okay, let's just throw some pulse laser on it just to soak up all the extra tonnage. And it's kind of an afterthought. In case a fast mover gets real close to you, you could swing that sucker and then bang away and maybe hit with it. You know, that's kind of the thought process I have with the pulse laser that they tossed on board. So your main weapons are going to be your ER medium lasers and those ultra cannons. So maybe by the time you get the pulse laser into action, most of the ammo bays will be empty, because in 5 turns you can empty out the autocannons, and then you're just kind of left with, well, 5 turns you're going to have 1 pod. You know, ammo bin is empty on both sides. So yeah. So that's kind of how I envision using this thing. And it wouldn't be so bad if you're like using this as a city fighter. In an open terrain type situation, yeah, it can work too. Because, you know, in most games, 18 is your typical Succession Wars era ranges. But, yeah, if you're facing off against the clans, they're going to outgun you, outrange you. You know, it's like it's a typical thing of Intersphere versus clan tech. Yeah, they're going to outgun you, outrange you. You know, it's just something you're going to have to do. Just close the distance. You got to get into knife fighting range typically when you're fighting against clans. As the movie Patton says, reach up there and grab him by the nose and then kick him in the you don't know what. So, so that's kind of like how you fight clans. You just get in. You got to get your weapons into your best ability. And if you're fighting clans, they don't want too close. They want to keep the distance. They got their, why lose your advantage? So that's basically how you're going to handle one of these things. Stay outside 18, just bang away, and eventually you're going to cut some holes into it. So, yeah. Interesting mech. Now, once you get into range and your autocannons are empty, then you're going to be, well, a lot of it depends too, is that your firing solution with those autocannons, if you're even going to double pump, you're definitely probably going to send at least 1 downrange. Yeah, if I needed 10s, if I'm needing 10s, I'm probably not going to double pump, because, yeah, the odds of hitting are probably low, but, you know, you might want to gamble. And you got the heat sinks to handle the autocannon heat, so. Now, when you get in 12, you're going to be throwing in those ER medium lasers. So, yeah, it's up to you how you want to deal with that. Now, that was the 3C, the 3C version. So, interesting. But the one thing I did say is that I'd probably get rid of the anti-personnel pods and replace it with a flamer. You know, I'd rather have a flamer. Give me some options, because I love flamers. Because with flamers, you can start a fire, you can heat up an enemy mech, you can burn down infantry. You know, you get lots of options with those versus just the APODs, which are dedicated towards, let's just blow up infantry, you know, that type of thing, cause damage to them. You know, yeah, I'd rather have a flamer instead, you know, because it's half a ton for an APOD. You got 2 of them, get yourself a flamer. There you go. Yeah, it's more heat, but more versatile. And then we have the 5C. All right, the 5C. This variant specializes in both long and short range combat. For long range combat, it has 2 light Gauss rifles, which go out to 25. which allows an enemy strike an extra distance. Alrighty, so to defend itself, has 4 ER medium lasers, 2 to the front, 2 to the rear. It also has its medium pulse laser, so it's kind of taking some stuff off of it. And it has 2 SRM-4 missile launchers that, for crit hunting, basically. That's, and then you have the 4 anti-personnel pods. And it still has the ECM suite. And this one comes in at $2107 for battle value. Now, once again, it's like anti-missile pods or anti-personnel pods. And once again, I think I'd rather have a flamer and put a flamer in both front and right, front legs. Put a flamer in each of it. Take care of it. So, that's kind of like how I envision using those. Even though, it's like I think the whole concept of the anti-personnel pod is like if you got infantry in the hex you are in, which, yes, we faced many times of having infantry. It's like you just look at them, all you can do is stop, drop, and roll over top of them. With the A-pods, yes, I can see them being useful because if infantry get into your hex, they're gonna not like you. You can blow them off the planet that way. So maybe convert 2 of those A-pods into a flamer and then keep the other 2. That will take care of infantry in the hex that you're in. Okay, there you go. Now, the light Gauss rifles, those go out to 25, do 8 points of damage. So but they cost you 13 tons apiece. And because they got 1 ton of ammunition to go with it. So that's 13 tons wrapped up in an 8-point shot that goes out to 25. What goes out to 23 and does 10 points of damage? ERPPC. Which one would you rather have? Which one does more damage? You're only losing 2 hexes. I think I'd rather go with a pair of ERPPCs instead. Yes, they cause more heat. That's 30 heat, but you're already running around with, well, this one has 12 double heat sinks, but you're going to be saving yourself a lot of tonnage. So that's 5 tons per rifle. That's 10 tons you get to play with. Yeah, I could easily throw in 3 tons of it into heat sinks. Take care of that little heat problem a little bit. But, all right, well, let's just talk about the version that we have. This one, like I said, it comes out at 2,107 battle value. Now, this one, you have basically, you're going to be a long-range sniper. Now, if you have the capability of getting this into a network, like a C3 network, I would drop the medium pulse laser for another ER medium laser and a C3 slave. That's something I would think about as a conversion if you want to add this to a network. But with going out to 25 8-point shots, you're going to be doing some damage out to range. Not the same thing as having a ER large laser, which goes out to 19, so 6 hex range different and twice as heavy for doing the same amount of damage. But you can sit back there and slowly walk forward and just keep banging away with those things, and eventually you might put some holes into somebody where you can get in close. So now if you do get in close, now you're looking at let's see, we got the Gauss rifles are going 2 points of damage, but they have a minimum range of 3, so you don't want to get too close, but that's not overly a big issue. And then you have the 2 ER medium lasers and 2 SRM-4s. So that's 3, 6, 16, 18 damage, or not 18 damage, but 18 heat. And then if you run, that's 20. You're still running cool. That's 24 that you can dissipate. So that's not an issue there. So you can throw in that medium pulse laser. That will put you at the 24 mark. The mech is going to be running cool. All right. So if you're at range 4 to 6, the pulse laser is going to be fine, and you're able to do some damage and not worry about heat. So it's a well balanced when it comes to heat wise. So it's not an overly big issue when it comes to that. So something to like. Now, let's see, what else do we got here? Other than that, it seems to be pretty well balanced. Just like the damage output isn't overly great compared to the other version, because the other version, you have a potential of doing a lot of damage. Even with the autocannons, you can kick out 40 damage, while this one's going to do 16 out at long range. So at 25, you can do 16. The other one, at 18, you can do 40. So you kind of decide. And the battle value isn't much different. You know, you're talking in between what, 40? What was that? That one was 50. Yeah, 54. So 47 points difference. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather go running around with the 3C version personally. You know, just the fact that the damage output's a heck of a lot better. And then we got the 6C. Now this one comes in at 2,202 battle value, so a little bit more, about 100 more. This one, okay. This one has Guardian ECM in the. Then we have the that's in the head, I believe. Then you have a C3 Slave in the right torso. You got a light Gauss rifle in the right torso, and I think it has a ton of ammunition. Double check. 2 tons of ammunition, so it can kick it out to 32 turns, which is really a lot. That's a lot of turns for that. And then you have an ER large laser in the left torso with 4 ER medium lasers in the left torso. Those are all facing forward. And now this is the kicker. This one has improved jump jets. So it's a 3.55. So with improved jump jets, its mobility is greater. So instead of just being a 3.5, now you have the capability of just going over objects, getting up. You know, it's like it's a level 4 building or 5 building. Hey, you're leaping tall buildings with a single bound, right? So kind of useful. Now the damage output at from 20 to 25, you got 8 points of damage. And when you get at 19, you're going to add another 8, so it's back to that 16 of the previous version that you're talking about. Then you have, when you even get closer, then you're looking at the 4 ER medium lasers. Now, the big problem with this, you only have 10 double heat sinks with this thing. So your capability of dissipating heat has been greatly decreased. But you have the C3 Slave, so if you're part of the network, at least you can kick back and relax a little bit and just bang away, shooting at targets. And it's not going to be doing a lot of damage comparatively to the other versions that you may have out there. But when you get in close, you have some choices. Obviously, you're going to be firing away with the 2 long-range weapons for the longest period of time, and if you get within 12, then you got some issues that you want to deal with, because then your damage output is closer to 20, but without you could go up higher to 28, because you got that light Gauss rifle. It only does 1 heat, so you could walk and fire the ER medium lasers and the light Gauss rifle. And then you are sitting at 2 turns of doing that, and then you're sitting at that 4 threshold of heat, okay? And that's where you have to make a decision. Are you going to shut off one of those ER medium lasers, cool off a little bit, and then go right back at... So basically 2 turns of firing your ER medium lasers and your Gauss rifle, and then take a turn where you can fire 3 of them, and then your Gauss rifle, cool off, get back to it type of thing. Keep that movement modifier from being, at that level 5 heat, from kicking in. You don't like that. Don't want to do that. So, but you do have the capability of doing an extra 5 heat, of doing a jump. So if you do a jump, like try to get behind somebody. It's like that's going to be a surprise for somebody when you do a 5 jump in behind them and unleash with your ER medium lasers. And you might want to consider hitting them with all those. So if you jumped with 4 in their backside, so you're not having the minimum range with that. And if you imagine one of these guys with jumping jack skill. So yeah, that would be an interesting, yeah, something to think about. But overall, not bad. But once again, I'm thinking right back to this the C version was like, I really want to go that route. So there. Now, I have in the past messed around with one of these. I took the was it the 5C and messed around with it and replaced the 2 light Gauss rifles and replaced them with 2 ERPPCs. So you can basically replace the 2 Gauss rifles with an ERPPC, and I believe I put in maybe it was a large pulse laser for a little bit up close, and I did the 2. Basically, they had 2 flamers also. So you do have capability a little bit up close, crunching and munching with it, and then you do have some long range fire support for the 10-pointers. So, and I personally, I'd rather have 2 ERPPCs versus the 2 like Gauss rifles, just for the fact that you're capable of adding a few more weapon systems on board, and you're increasing your damage output at the cost of only 2 hexes. To me, that's worth it. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the Sirocco. So something to think about, maybe kind of play with. It's a kind of a head scratcher. What are you willing? And I think I did have a C3 slave on board this thing, the one I designed, that you can play with, which increases, you're going to put it into a network anyway, so why not have that and mess around with it. So something to think about. So if you guys got any experience with this thing, let me know. Write down how you feel about it and maybe what kind of changes you would do with it. So that's it. That's the Sirocco in a nutshell. Hope you guys like it. Like and subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Elk Rex out.